Viktor will introduce activities at Psychedelics Europe and their initiatives within the European Parliament. So he will also highlight opportunities for getting involved in advocacy for innovative health solutions. So now I will welcome Viktor, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. You have the stage.
Hi guys, so I hope you can hear me and you can see me. So on behalf of Psychedelics Europe, let me please give you our apology for not being in Maastricht. So Eva, she just came back from Ukraine 2 days ago with COVID. I'm being tested negative, but I'm sick. So we are currently both in Brussels, quarantined. So thanks to Marvin and his colleagues, we are at least able to be connected online. My name is Viktor, and as described, I'm the founder of the association based in Brussels called Psychedelics Europe, and our goal is to actually advocate for a medicinal use of psychedelics in the European Union. We established our association last year, and ever since the scope of activities grew quite quickly, so I prepared a very short presentation that we can dive in, and then I will be open for any questions you might possibly have. So I'm just gonna share my screen now. Hope everything is going to work. Yeah. Okay, so I will just open my phone since I can't see you, so and something doesn't work, that at least there is a possibility to tell me somehow. So, what is Psychedelics Europe? So we are an association based in Brussels, in a walking distance to all EU institutions in the so-called Brussels bubble, very close to the Schumann area. We are, I would say, a typical advocacy platform within the EU public affairs realm that is driven by evidence-based approach and latest scientific findings. And eventually we advocate for an EU, or like to speed up the process towards an EU-wide regulatory framework for medicinal use of psychedelics and their use in treatments and therapies. That you can see our core team. That is me, Viktor, Vojta, our kind of a head of advocacy, Eva Kotorova, the spiritus movens behind the regulatory affairs, and newly our new intern, Hans Beckle, who is the only member of our team who successfully made it to Maastricht. So I believe he is sitting in the audience. So my warm greetings to Hans, and he is helping us a lot with numerous things, but foremost with our presence on social sites lately. And I will get back to this topic later. So first of all, apart from our team, Psychedelics Europe relies heavily on a strong scientific committee that we have. So in the last 11 months, we managed to put together scientists from across the EU member state, including some of the scientists present at the conference in Maastricht today, including Kim Kupers or Professor Ramakers. Amongst the others, the scientific committee currently includes, I would say, leading EU scientists from Denmark, Netherlands, Germany, France, Italy, Portugal, or Czech Republic, and ongoing discussions are being held with experts and scientists outside of Europe, such as Switzerland, United Kingdom, United States, and Canada. Why the scientific committee is important? Basically, every advocacy activity in Brussels, communication with the European Commission and agencies of the Commission, such as DG Sante or EMA, or communication with people from the European Parliament, must be based on evidence. So that means that our materials that we are actually distributing must be, before we publish it, must be authorized by our scientific committee. When it comes to key goals of Psychedelics Europe, so first of all, we have to realize that there is a new trend in the European Union, and that is that the European Commission kind of became very active in the healthcare sector, a sector that traditionally has been a domain of the EU member states. However, with the key regulatory dossiers such as the Europe Speeding Cancer Plan or the Pharmaceutical Strategy for Europe, EU for Health, and others, healthcare has become the key topic. At the same time, the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemics caused an immediate interest in the mental health. That is also quite new. So in the last few months, the European Parliament has been calling the European Commission to prepare something as a comprehensive EU strategy on mental health. So, and amidst these discussions, Psychedelics Europe was established with an aim to support mental health to be really at the top of the EU agenda. Since discussing mental health also means creating a space for discussing psychedelics. So first of all, Psychedelics Europe supports mental health to be and to stay at the top of the interest of the EU decision makers. Secondly, for the sake of legitimacy, we strive to include medicinal use of psychedelics within the existing key EU initiatives, such as the Europe Speeding Cancer Plan or the Pharmaceutical Strategy for Europe. Why is that? These initiatives are basically key regulatory developments that in a few years there will be a big spillover into the regulatory frameworks of the EU member states. And for example, a particular chapter of the Europe Speeding Cancer Plan is, for example, a palliative care that naturally creates space for discussing psychedelics. Then we established functional cooperation with existing parliamentary groups within the European Parliament that are focused on mental health. After that, a few months ago, we launched an establishment of a brand new cross-party parliamentary group that is focused not only on mental health, but solely on psychedelics. This group is currently being established and procedurally finalized. I believe my own estimation is that it should be up and running in end of May or beginning of June of this year. Next to it, we advocate for a sufficient financial allocation for psychedelic research within the EU funding schemes, such as, of course, Horizon Europe and others. As already mentioned, all our activities kind of support the discussions surrounding the so-called EU strategy on mental health or the EU's year for mental health. And at the end of the day, we would like to see harmonized rules for usage of psychedelics on the EU market. So when it comes to what we already did, I think that I can probably skip these two technical slides, but most importantly, I would say in November of last year, we organized an important event in the European Parliament together with the so-called MEPs Alliance for Mental Health, that is a group in the European Parliament focused on mental health. So this event was actually co-chaired by chairmans of this political group, and amongst the key topics we discussed, we agreed on the fact that first of all, EU needs a coordinated action in the field of mental health, since the COVID-19 pandemic is causing troubles when it comes to mental health of the EU citizens, and that traditional cures and traditional antidepressants provide no longer a sufficient help. And that's why the EU should support innovative approaches in mental health, including the medicinal use of psychedelics. And we are actually planning for other events for this year with this parliamentary group that are going to be focused again in more detailed way on the medicinal use of psychedelics. We are also very much engaged with kind of media relations, that we are trying to actually position our scientists from our scientific committee, but also politicians from the European Parliament we are in touch with to be able to speak about psychedelics. So here, for example, you can see MEP Tomáš Zdechovský, who is from the EPP, from say, a center-right party, who is mentioning psychedelics after our event we jointly did. In his article he wrote for the official magazine of the European Parliament, that I think this is a very niche sphere, but from the point of view of a lobbyist, this is an important thing when we are able to actually discuss the medicinal use of psychedelics and these official documents of the EU institutions, which means that this discussion is becoming normal, which is then important for the further development of where the regulatory framework should go and how the regulator and decision makers are going to approach the issue of psychedelics, that of course for some people might still be mostly due to the lack of information, controversial or difficult. We run our social media, especially LinkedIn and Twitter. So please, for those who are using these platforms, don't hesitate and at Psychedelics Europe. There we are trying to publish the opinions of members of our scientific committee. We are trying to inform people about our activities. We are also trying to get engaged with decision makers and regulators in Brussels, but also at the level of EU member states. And actually, for this year, we plan a very strong activity, and we would like to grow our social sites. Although it's not our core activity, we understand that in the current world, it's important to take social side seriously in order to be able to raise awareness about what we do and what we believe should be the response of the EU decision makers and regulators towards psychedelics. When it comes to the key activities that we planned for this year, so first of all, Psychedelics Europe are going to organize more events in the European Parliament, focused on the medicinal use of psychedelics, focused on the best practices, focused on the common denominators in between medicinal use of psychedelics and the key EU initiatives that are already taking place. These events will most likely take place in autumn. We are currently kind of discussing the content and finalizing the speaker slot and key topics. That's to be organized with the so-called MEPs Alliance for Mental Health. That is the already existing parliamentary group in the European Parliament with which we have an established cooperation. Next to it, as already mentioned, Psychedelics Europe has launched establishment of a brand new cross-party parliamentary group that is going to be focused only on psychedelics and medicinal use of psychedelics. So this group is actually being established in cooperation with parliamentarians from the Green Party. However, the aim is also to invite parliamentarians from other parties to make it a cross-party group that is kind of broad in the scope, that I think is what is actually needed for a discussion about psychedelics in the European Parliament. And here we actually the topics we are going to discuss are going to be a bit similar, but within this cross-party group, the focus on psychedelics is going to be bigger, and psychedelics are going to be the key topic. So again, in next months with our scientific committee, we are going to define the agenda and define the agenda of the events. We also would like to raise awareness about maybe regulatory best practices already taking place in Canada and States. So somewhere we might draw an inspiration that can help us to speed up the process in Brussels. More importantly, perhaps, and I don't want to go very much into the detail, but I believe that you know that formally the European Union is being presided by member states. So currently it is France, then from the 1st July onwards, this is going to be the Czech Republic, and then it's Sweden. So importantly, and this is politics, so it comes with a certain level of likelihood. It's not for 100%, but most likely, I would say 95% certainty, mental health has to become a priority of the upcoming Czech presidency of the European Union. And because of that, there should be a big international conference on mental health in October or November this year, either in Brussels or in Prague, focused on the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, on the mental health of the EU citizens, also the impacts of the recent crisis in Ukraine, and then how the EU should tackle the mental health situation together with the EU strategy on mental health that is being discussed and other already existing initiatives, the mentioned Europe's Beating Cancer Plan or the Pharmaceutical Strategy for Europe. And we are currently discussing, we are like working around the clock to include psychedelics and medicinal use of psychedelics into the official agenda and official program of this international conference that is currently being planned. Good thing is that one of the coordinators of the agenda of this conference is a member of our scientific committee. So we believe we should be successful and create enough of space for discussing medicinal use of psychedelics during the tenure of the Czech presidency at this international conference targeting mental health. And as a result of this conference, we would like to actually stimulate a preparation of a joint memorandum of leading EU scientists and decision makers in Brussels that would lead to a kind of a roadmap, what kind of a coordinated action in the field of mental health EU needs. And of course, from our point of view, what EU needs also is embracing the medicinal use of psychedelics in the realm of mental health. So that's it. Next to it, in autumn, on the margins of the presidency that has mental health as a priority, Psychedelics Europe is going to organize a series of thematic roundtables that we are actually going to take the key issues and key developments within the psychedelic community and expert community. We're going to cut them into 5 separate topics or 6. And then we are going to dedicate a thematic roundtable to each of them. And most of them are going to take place in Brussels. We are speaking October, November of this year. And we are currently launching the discussions about what this topic should be. But I believe, of course, also research and say clinical trials and how to support EU universities, for example, and students to be even more active in this field is going to be amongst the top priorities we would like to focus on. Just for information, what is the work of a regulatory platform such as Psychedelics Europe? We basically undertake a continuous stakeholder outreach towards the key institutions and key stakeholders at the EU as well as member state level. So we talk on a weekly basis or daily, sometimes daily basis, sometimes weekly or monthly basis with relevant political groups in the European Parliament, with the European Commission and its agencies such as DG Sante or the European Medicines Agency or EMCDDA, and also with relevant authorities at the level of member states, ministries of health, offices of the government, leading research institutions. And like to these, we are basically delivering the key messaging about the medicinal use of psychedelics and raising awareness about it vis-a-vis these stakeholders. As discussed, social science are going to be one of the key focuses of this year, since we understand we need to be a little bit more focused on this. And that's why we also hired a new intern who is currently with me in Maastricht. So we are very much looking forward to kind of modernize ourselves a little bit alongside with the preparation of a new website that is going to be a much more interactive. And for the time being, I think we are staying on LinkedIn and Twitter, but I can't exclude that we are going to, try another platforms soon too. So we also continue in the media outreach that we are trying to facilitate to people around Psychedelics Europe and experts space in media in order to be able to speak about their research or their opinions about where either the research focus or the regulation in Europe should go when it comes to psychedelics. And again, here we are currently preparing ourselves to be able to use as much as possible the momentum of mental health being a priority of the upcoming presidency of the European Union, which also brings about a few months of an interest targeted on mental health. And so we would like to be well prepared for it, not only with events and I would say public affairs activities, but also when it comes to the media. That will be all as an introduction, and thank you very much for your thank you very much for being here. Once again, I'm sorry for not being there with you. Unfortunately, I'm sick, so I'm also a little bit slower today. So I hope it doesn't distract my presentation skills that very much. So even though I think it's technically a little bit complicated, I'm more than ready for answering your questions. Just let me know how we can do it. Now I will just try to stop sharing my screen.
Yes, thanks a lot, Viktor, for this.
I think that you are moving, at least to me.
Thanks a lot, Viktor, for this really interesting presentation. Right, so before going into the questions, I would actually like to express my interest for this kind of back end of this change that we see as scientists, as students, this change in attitude that we see with the wave of decriminalizations in the US and just a change in general public opinion. And I personally always wondered how this actually happens, and it seems that it doesn't happen by itself. And I would like to thank you for having these initiatives. But now, I actually have a question for you, because as a scientist, as a former student of neuroscience, I sometimes live under the impression that all I have to do is the science, and then things will follow. But of course, as you just proved, it's not that easy. So I would like to ask you, what is an immediate action that each of us can take to advocate or raise awareness from our homes, from our small groups, and how can we do it in a meaningful way?
I would answer from the point of view of a lobbyist, and I understand your question. So what I've been always trained for in my profession, and what is also what I want to steer psychedelics toward, is a kind of, in my point of view, it's not that complicated and maybe currently not that important to speak with those who are already convinced or they are already on your side. But rather than go controversial and speaking with someone who is totally against you for some reason, I would say the most important thing now is to speak with those who are indifferent, let's say, either because of their choice or because of lack of information. And I think there might be a vast majority of cases. And for them, this is not a controversial topic. They just don't care, or they never met it. But in a due time, they are going to probably decide about something that might be important for the medicinal use of psychedelics. And so that's why we should be there, and we should be able to a certain extent to speak in their language. So of course, everything must be evidence-based, but at least in our profession, it's about simplifying it a bit without losing the essence, right? That's the first thing. And secondly, really trying to find common denominators with existing initiatives that EU undertakes is very important for the sake of making it a legitimate case, I would say. So that's why we also opted for this brand of supporting innovative solutions of mental health, since this is something that might be easier at the beginning to swallow. But so that I would say it's important. And secondly, I mean, it's always the same. It's important to speak with those people, with your MEPs, with people who represent your region in the European Parliament, and constantly supporting the thing that this is an important topic. And of course, the COVID-19 pandemic is a tragedy, but currently, at the same time, it really helps that people who were never interested in mental health are now actually targeting it. So I hope that at least there is going to be some good outcome out of it. So at least there is this interest now that also creates additional space for us to discuss this very important topic.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Viktor. I'm afraid I took all the time for the other questions, but this was a very insightful comment that you gave us. And again, thanks for joining us. We wish to see you maybe in person next time.
Hopefully, thank you so much. Once again, I'm sorry, and please enjoy your Saturday. And hopefully next time, either at this conference or other conference. And you are always welcome in Brussels at PsychedelicsEUROPE headquarters, should you be there.